Hello, my name is B. Harris. I am the publisher of Denver Urban Spectrum.
And I'm Alfonso Porter, editor of the Denver Urban Spectrum. Welcome to Urban Spectrum Now.
After publishing the Denver Urban Spectrum for 34 years, COVID-19 has provided us the opportunity to take our message of spreading the news about people of color to a new and larger demographic.
While under quarantine, we've been working to present this 60-minute webcast that will showcase leaders, culture, and opinions that affect people of color with controversial issues, entertainment, and community news. This inaugural webcast is focused on the coronavirus pandemic and how it is affecting African Americans locally and around the country.
Each webcast will feature profiles of people of color or organizations who are making a difference in the lives of others in our Urban Spirit segment. Coming up, the struggle of love, and see how they are serving Denver's communities.
Each month, I will host Urban Stands with a diverse panel of experts who will present opinions on issues impacting African Americans. See who they are this month and what they have to say about COVID-19.
In our Urban Splendor segment, we'll focus on the arts, cultural, and entertainment. This webcast pays tribute to Denver icon, musician Freddie Rodriguez, who lost his life to the coronavirus.
So, however you're reviewing this webcast, please share, like, subscribe, or tweet.
So sit back and join us for Urban Spectrum Now.
This segment is brought to you by the following. Looking for a home? No matter what your budget or lifestyle is, independent real estate broker Mabel Sutton can help you find your dream home. Barry Overton with New Era Group is the Colorado Dream Home Finder who says your dream is his mission. Or call Karen Hall, the Yes Lady at Brokers Guild, to help change your life and lifestyle. Don't wait, call today and set up an appointment.
A nonprofit in Northeast Denver is offering days' worth of groceries to struggling families, and the group is being helped in the effort by former inmates recently released because of COVID-19. It's another example of how we're all in this together. Our Conor McCue talked about second chances with the Struggle of Love Foundation today.
Every weekday at 11 o'clock, the cars start to line up in Montbello.
Hi, how are you doing?
What they're waiting for is the product of hours of hard work by dedicated volunteers.
Okay, we have green beans over here, dressing.
It's called Sacks of Love by the Struggle of Love Foundation. Today, they're giving out enough to feed a small family for about a week.
We have bread, meat, vegetables, fruit.
The group has offered this help for years, but since COVID-19, 20 families in need has turned into hundreds.
It melts my heart because I'm getting so many calls at night. During the day, we're hungry, we have no food.
The group's newest volunteer is Florencio Cruz Rodriguez. After 26 years in prison, he was recently released several months early due to COVID-19 concerns.
How do I get an ID? How do I go apply for food stamps? Where do I go?
Florencio found some of those answers with Struggle of Love, which found him a temporary place to live. In return, he's here every day giving back to his new community.
It eliminates me feeling like I'm not worth nothing. It shows me my value to the community.
Moving forward, the group is willing to help other former inmates lacking a support system.
We're trying to help them in their transition. You got to remember, some of us are in a transition ourselves and have been in transition for 20 years.
Florencio calls his transition scary and humbling, finding new purpose with each family he helps.
It is a redemption thing, you know, for me, because of the bad things that I did do to the streets. Got to give something back positive.
Now, the food giveaway happens every weekday between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. here in Montbello outside the Struggle of Love office off 47th Avenue. In Montbello, Conor McCue covering Colorado First.
For this first Urban Spirit segment, we are talking to the founders of Struggle of Love, Lakeisha and Joel Hodge, whose spirit of love is overflowing in Denver communities. You can read more about them in the Denver Urban Spectrum, but for now, we'd like to ask them a few questions up close and personal. Why do you take such an active role in supporting the community?
Well, I take such an active role in supporting the community because we are the community. We come from the community, and we were once in the shoes of many people that we help and serve today. So that's my reason for taking such an active role.
And I could ditto that. You know, we were once in the shoes. Both of us was once homeless at one time. Both of us kind of had bad family structures as we grew up. And so for me, I was a part of the community that was destroying the community. So I just wanted to change, to do something positive. So that's why we take such an active role, because we were busting those shoes, and we just want to help where we can.
What keeps you going when you experience tragedy like you recently did in the past few days?
What keeps us going with the recent tragedy that we experienced is just knowing that death is a part of life, and that, you never know the hour, the day, the minute when God's going to call you home. But when he does, it's just, it's your time to go. And, a lot of people have different ways of grieving and, making it through those tough times. And we just like to know, that we could be there for our family and be a support system. Especially when somebody loses their lives like suddenly, tragically to gun violence. It's really devastating to a family, but just providing a support system for them and just letting them know that he's in a better place, and there's really nothing you can do to bring him back. We just have to, cherish all of the memories that he left us with, and, find a way to grieve and heal from our wounds.
For me, it's really upsetting to say this, but it's like tragedy has become the norm. It's like you get numb to another death, another violent crime, so that's what's scary about our generation, is that most of us are numb to, we expect this to happen. So it's hard for me to deal with a lot of this tragedy, because it's going on day and night in our neighborhoods. And it is hard to fight, alone.
Well, I must commend you for the work that you're doing, but what message do you want to give to our young men and women of today?
I would like to say to the young men and women of today is, when we pass the torch, make sure you carry it on. Make sure that, you don't let the legacy die of all of the positive things that our people are building and leaving behind today. That you really just take heed to what's going on, know your background, know where you come from, never give up, believe in yourself, love yourself, and just know that there's nothing you can't do, and be great. Just be great.
My last question I'd like to ask you is, what's in the future for Struggle of Love, and how can the community help you with your mission?
That's a great question. Do you want to elaborate?
Well, for me, the community really has been what drove this mission to where it is today. For the 15 years that we've been doing it, it's all been community volunteers that come out and help us at all the picnics. It's so many of them, I can't say all their names. So, volunteers, the community is really what helps us, because we have a lot of things that we do within this organization. And without volunteers and people that's dedicated to our organizations that come out and do the work for free, those are the community. Those are the ones I have to take my hat off to and give an applause to, because and the community, they steady can help get involved, right now, like help us build capital, build staff, be able to, continue our mission and what we're doing. So that's and prayers but really the community has been a blessing to us. And I have to really commend the community that comes out and helps us all day, every day, and happy about it, you know. And so
I agree. We are a community foundation, and without the support that we already receive from the community, I would just say continue that. Like, continue to support us. Continue to volunteer where you can. I know it's hard when you're working, 8-12 hours a day, but if you can find it in your schedule to spare a few minutes to come out and give back and help out somebody in your community, or just volunteering with the organization, that is what has kept Struggle of Love floating for all these years.
Yeah.
My husband and I, we're the only staff people, but the volunteers and the community support is what's really been keeping the struggle alive.
Let's why don't you provide your website and your phone number in case someone wants to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach us. Our website is struggleoflovefoundation.org, and our phone number is 720-240-7200. You can get in touch with the founder, Mr. Joel Hodge, through that number, and my number is 720-353-3399, and those are our direct lines. And again, the website is struggleoflovefoundation.org, or you can email Lakeisha at struggleoflovefoundation.org as well if you want to get in touch with us.
I just wanted to put in the future mission as for us to have a center. We would love to have that called the Love Center. Well, so we're looking for space for that. If anybody can help us in that department, we within our Love Center, we want to take in with what we call the forgotten kids, the kind of rougher kids and stuff like that. So if anybody can help us in that department, would be greatly appreciated. And to keep, we need also space to keep our food bank as big as it is now, because right now we're doing it out of 360 Academy, which is a school. They've blessed us since the school's been cut down to take over the whole first floor. And so we're just scared that once this comes back open, how we're going to continue our this
providing food to the community. So Struggle of Love is going to continue to grow and expand. And like we said, we're grateful for all our volunteers, but we're looking to hire staff and expand even more and provide jobs to people that lost their jobs during COVID-19, and a place that we can all call home. So that's the future for Struggle of Love.
Well, thank you, Lakeisha and Joel, for giving us this time, and we will continue to support you and your work.
We have all the risk, we have all the pre-existing conditions.
But we have all it takes to beat COVID-19.
COVID-19 is devastating
the Black and brown community.
To beat COVID-19, we just have to follow
4 simple rules. Stay home.
If you have to go to work,
keep 6 feet between you and anyone else.
Wear a mask
and hand protection.
And finally,
wash your hands often
for at least 20 seconds.
It's us against COVID.
The Census 2020 is here.
Historically, our communities have been undercounted and underrepresented.
It's important that our community is accurately counted so we can get the resources we need so everyone can thrive.
The census brings in billions of dollars into the state of Colorado. It helps our communities get funding that's vital to us, our families, and our children.
It's simple, safe, and secure.
You can respond by phone, by mail, and online.
In Colorado, everyone counts.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to first thank you for joining us for this very important issue that is plaguing our communities locally and nationally. This meeting will be part of the first Urban Spectrum Now webcast to broadcast in May. We all know that African Americans are dying at a very disproportionate rate that in more than any other race. So for this broadcast, we have invited a diverse panel of experts who will share their opinions, ideas, and suggestions on how we can collectively eradicate this pandemic that is literally destroying the fabric of our communities and families. We are joined by State Representative Leslie Herod, who has been working with and providing updates from the governor's office. Angelle Fouther is representing the Montbello Organizing community. Our faith community representative is Bishop Jerry Demmer. To shed light on the business community and nonprofit sector are Gash-Maxey and Lauren Casteel. Financial expert Myra Donovan is one of the panelists, and for any legal questions, we have invited Dawn Bookhardt. Our medical experts are Dr. Johnny Johnson and Dr. Anthony Young, and Reverend Quincy Shannon is representing the village.
How has COVID-19 impacted your field of endeavor?
This has been wild, and I'm sure as each one of us has come on here, we'll have a different aspect of that. This thing got kicked off with a free fall in the market. I'm 30 years in as a certified financial planner in the business, so I've seen a lot. I've seen wars and Brexits and blow-ups and recessions, but this one felt different and felt worse simply because in addition to all of the uncertainty around market stuff, there was the uncertainty around the COVID, no answers, more questions, and a lot of fear and anxiety, which I'm sure our doctors will get into it a little bit later. So it created another level for me to be able to, because this is a person business, we are very much face to face. And so not having that ability to do that means that we have to get creative in terms of reaching out, making sure people have information, touching, holding hands, talking people off the ledge, the whole 9 yards. So it's been an interesting journey. There are a lot of lessons to learn here, but I think that's the key, is that we are learning some lessons. So it's been a journey, and I expect that when we get on the other side of it, we will certainly be changed in a lot of different ways.
I, as Bea mentioned, am representing Montbello Organizing Committee, where I'm one of the co-founders and vice president of the community organizing group and co-chair of our Fresh Flow project. I, by trade, have been in communications almost all of my career in nonprofit communications. In particular, I feel very fortunate. I am director of communications for Urban Land Conservancy, and I feel fortunate that communications has grown into a field where we can work remotely. There are a lot of tools at our disposal to be able to share what's going on, to reach people, to be, in the realm of two-way communications with people during this very challenging time. On the community front, and professionally, I'm in the realm of development, particularly of affordable housing communities. And I worry. There are limited dollars right now. Building construction is considered one of those essential functions. And so things are moving forward, but there are projections that there will be a contraction right at the point where, we've seen that there's a need for housing that outpaces the supply of housing, but it's going to get worse with people losing jobs, with instability in terms of supplies and people being able to complete these projects. And so we are part of our Fresh Flow project is 96 units of affordable housing, and we are pushing forward to keep the project on pace and going after the funding we need. Likewise, with ULC, we're continuing on, but it's going to be a rocky road, and so it's just one of those times where the need is amplified at the time where there's less resources to meet the need, and so we'll have to all get very creative, very quick.
I am the president and CEO of the Women's Foundation of Colorado, and we are the unique community foundation in the state of Colorado focused on women and families. Our mission is to catalyze community to advance and accelerate economic opportunities for women and their families, regardless of background and identity. So the COVID crisis hits us squarely in the middle of that mission. And when we think about the fact that women are predominantly the essential workers, whether we're talking about nurses, service workers, gig workers, those who have provided the backbone of the support of our country, that for the first time, really in a national sense, that veil has been lifted about the intersections of the impact of the disproportionate effectiveness of our society to support women of color. Those intersections of race and class and gender are now front and center for us. So how has it changed what we do? I think what it has done is that it is now giving us a platform that perhaps had not been as clear to others. We have always been focused on those who have been marginalized within our society as women and as families. We now have a platform where people are listening to that message. We use grant making, so we have a rapid relief fund. We will be giving about 35 grants of $10,000 each, general operating, unrestricted, statewide for communities, but predominantly representing families of color and women of color. But public policy is also a hallmark of our work. And one of the things that Leslie knows as well as anyone that will be essential is that we use our voices in the public policy sphere in order for us to create the long-term change. So we want to have some immediate impact around the urgent needs, but it's important for us to think about sustained, equitable recovery, and that we keep our communities front and center in that equitable recovery as well from a philanthropic perspective. But our hope is that we will be able to ramp up not just for the short term, but to create the change that's necessary for generations to come. The time is now, and if we don't capture it as a community, then we will find those disproportionate disparities. And that's not to be blaming of individuals. This is not our fault. This is the result of long-standing historic inequities within our systems around the intersection of gender, race, and class.
My name is Dawn Bookhardt. I am an equity partner with the law firm of Butler Snow here in Denver, and I practice in the area of public finance. I am the owner of Oddtail Books, which is a concession retail operation at Denver International Airport, or DIN. And as a public finance attorney, I'm a bond lawyer. That means that I represent various entities, underwriters, issuers, local governments, municipalities in the issuance of debt or bonds. So funny thing is that the bond market has gone absolutely crazy. It is a roller coaster. Nothing but the very highest debt, AAA debt, is really being sold right now. There has been a slight uptick in the sale of those bonds, but it's really, really tricky. We were in the middle of a big deal in Colorado Springs just recently for the Air Force, and we got all the way to market, and the market just collapsed as a result of COVID-19. And there are so many reasons for that. One of those reasons is that bonds that are sold on a tax-exempt basis are generally sold based upon tax revenues that are received either from sales taxes, property taxes, different types of voted taxes. Those are revenue bonds, and it makes a difference whether the market believes that those kinds of taxes are being collected. with these stay-at-home edicts that have been issued, people have been inside of their homes. They haven't really been out. This affects mass transit. This affects ridership for public buses, public transportation. It affects the travel industry, trust me. So my second job as a concessionaire at Denver International Airport has really been affected because people aren't traveling. Airports are essentially dead. So both the bond market and the travel industry, and I'm talking about airports, hospitality, hotels are really, really suffering. Train stations, mass transit. We are really, really hitting the bottom of the barrel. It's a bad situation, and you talk about having to get creative. We are having to get creative very quickly. But that's the good thing about being African American. We know how to get creative.
I'm the president of the Denver Rocky Mountain Association of Black Psychologists, and also past national president of the national APSI as well. And to begin with, let me say that, first of all, mental health is really fundamental to health. When we find ourselves being stressed out financially, interpersonally, and all of the various ways in which we're challenged mentally, certainly with this pandemic, what has happened is that Black people tend to have a lot of stress anyway. Just our existence in America has been tough enough these several hundreds of years, and the pandemic has had the effect of really exacerbating the existing stresses that we have already, not just financially with housing, interpersonally, and all of the various ways in which human beings have to struggle. We find ourselves having to deal with a pandemic which has resulted in unemployment, financial stress, housing difficulties, and certainly we've been in a situation historically that African Americans are less likely to seek any type of help for our mental health challenges. And that's due to the history of stigmas regarding mental health, affordability, accessibility, and certainly the lack of culturally congruent services overall. The need has just certainly exacerbated with the additional stress of dealing with a pandemic. So even though our people are less likely to seek mental health treatment, when we do these days, rather than being able to go into an office and actually have face-to-face psychotherapy or counseling, what's going on now is that we're doing teletherapy. So counseling is actually occurring over the internet through various type of technologies such as Google Hangouts and what have you. So while we were less likely to walk into a therapist's office to begin with, now we have to deal with the additional challenge of using technology to engage with the therapist in a rather impersonal sort of way, because we're not very used to engaging in counseling over the internet. But this is where we're at these days, and that in itself has added to the stress.
I'm State Representative Leslie Herod. I represent House District 8, which is in Central and Northeast Denver. But I'm also the chair of the Finance Committee and the vice chair of Judiciary. So how has this impacted our world as a legislator and a community leader? I think it's pretty clear. So we are not even able to go into the building and legislate right now for fear of contracting the virus ourselves. Wow. The chambers are built in a very small and confined area, and it is very conducive to spread a virus. We actually have a doctor of the day that sits on the floor with us in normal times because we quickly spread viruses to each other. But more importantly, it's in the community and how we can elevate the voices of our community to the Capitol, to our policies, and to our governor and mayor to ensure that our community has a voice. So one thing that we're very concerned about is the disparities that are happening within the COVID cases and the COVID deaths. we are finding that African Americans are 2 to 3 times more likely to contract COVID. We're less likely to actually be tested, and we're more likely to not be admitted to the hospital when we first present symptoms, and more likely to die. And so we need to address these health disparities head on before we start racking up the numbers of, unfortunately, people in our community who have passed away from discrimination in the healthcare system and setting. So the virus does not discriminate, right? It's not the virus that discriminates, but we have been discriminated against for generations, and that has led to inequities and barriers in our healthcare. So as someone who suffers from asthma, I know firsthand how terrifying it can be to hear that there is a virus that attacks the respiratory system. And then I think, wait a minute, a lot of my community has asthma. We are overrepresented with respiratory conditions. So I started asking those questions about data, and when no one else was. And that's why I think it's important that we have people of color in these positions to ask these questions. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have the data in the first place. And then all of the things that everybody else has talked about. What are we going to do in our communities to help us recover? What does housing look like? What does school look like? What does the employment sector look like? Those are all things that we're going to have to address. And if we don't put an equity lens on the policies that we're creating, we're going to be left behind.
Thank you.
Now, we in, well, first of all, I'm Dr. Johnny Johnson, OBGYN doctor in active practice, still on the front lines of healthcare in this community. And I tell you, in this country and healthcare, this system has been exposed. It's been exposed for the injustices and racism that exists in the minority population, and underscore the importance now for prevention and social measures to protect the people at risk now. We have seen so much healthcare disparities in this country. This virus has been coming. And Obama predicted it, Bill Gates predicted it, and this virus is just a symptom. We've had this virus and virus similar to this before, H1N1, Ebola. So the fact is that the virus is the symptom and the disease is our social economical status in this in the community in this country. So before we even attempt to do anything with healthcare, and mind you, everybody's working hard as doctors and nurses, but this is a novel virus we have never seen before. So it's amazing to see statistics where thousands and hundreds of people are dying each day. So you would never expect this to happen in the hospital system, but you would expect it to happen in a healthcare system that deals with the cost of care as opposed to the quality of care. So we were never equipped. We didn't have equipment. We had people on the front lines without any protective measures, masks that were old, so ventilators that were not working. So we have gotten to the point where now, with healthcare disparity, we're going to have to deal with education as we go forward, because people have to realize that social distancing means that. Wearing a mask means wearing that. It's not like all these measures and guidelines are up for public debate. It's like we need to do a little bit drastic measures, but that has to come from the top. And we know we have not gotten that leadership from the top when it comes to guidelines, and it comes to medication, and comes to treatment. Just now, a guy from CDC came out with the hydroquinone. The treatment for malaria is not good for coronavirus, and he got fired.
Data from the state shows COVID-19 outbreak in Colorado is being seen at higher rates in Black and other communities of color. Today we spoke to a Metropolitan State professor who recently lost his mother to the virus.
She perished alone, and she's got a huge family who loves her. And the idea of her just being there with nobody to hold her hand and nobody to tell her that they loved her, is just about it's unbearable for me.
85-year-old Dream Moore of Aurora was diagnosed and she died within a week. Porter says his mother raised 6 children on her own. She did have some underlying health issues. Blacks are more susceptible to the virus because of higher rates of diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, and economic inequality. A lot of people of color work low-wage or essential jobs that are still requiring a lot of interaction with the public. In Colorado, African Americans are about 4% of the population, yet they are representing 7% of COVID-19 cases, nearly 7% of deaths. Hispanics have also been hit really hard. They represent 22% of the population, but have 33% of the cases.
This is a confirmation, once and for all, that our communities are not equal, that there is no equity in the access to quality health care in the United States if you live in a Black, brown community.
Porter also says that COVID-19 will have a cascading effect in minority communities that reach well beyond health care. Minority-owned businesses will suffer. Kids without access to internet will fall behind in academics as well. This story is a part of the statewide collab reporting project called Colorado's COVID Diaries. A day in the pandemic, more than 20 news outlets from around the state have teamed up to report about one day in our battle against the virus. This is happening on April 16th. All of these stories will be released Sunday on 9news.com.
And coronavirus is even making it difficult for us to grieve for our loved ones. The owners of a funeral home tell Denver 7's Sloan Dickey services are challenging and they too are in need of supplies.
They're dying alone. I've been doing this 40 years and I've never experienced anything like it.
Death in the age of coronavirus is a lonely business.
At any given funeral, it would be full. But we now have to space them out.
Funeral directors Michael and Laquita Taylor are helping people to grieve alone.
I want to hug them so bad sometime.
Colorado has banned any gathering larger than 10 people, halting most funerals and burials. And as the death toll from COVID-19 continues to rise, mourners are left with fewer and fewer options. And now an even starker problem.
This is all the N95 we have. And this is it.
As vital masks and gloves make their way to first responders, professionals who take care of burial services say they're in dire need as well.
Are people gonna pass? Surely. But our prayer is that it will not be as much.
The last responders in the line of this pandemic preparing themselves for the difficult weeks ahead.
The wave hasn't got here yet.
It's coming.
But it's coming. And that we need to be prepared and safe.
Preparing and praying as we all wait for the simple comfort of gathering again.
It does sometimes shake you, but we never waver in our faith.
For Denver 7, I'm Sloan Dickey reporting.
With coronavirus still spreading, people at higher risk must take extra precautions. You're at higher risk if you are over 65 or if you have any serious underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, diabetes, or if your immune system is compromised for any reason. If you're at higher risk, wash your hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds. Avoid touching your face. Disinfect frequently touched objects. And wash up after being in public spaces. And when it comes to social situations, less is better. Stay 6 feet or 2 arm lengths away from other people. Better still, stay home if you can. If you're sick, please stay home and away from others. And if you think you've been exposed to the virus, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. In challenging times, the choices you make are critical. Please visit coronavirus.gov for more information.
So much information has been given out. A couple of things that I do want to emphasize. First of all, I am reminded of a statement that Rashid Robinson of The Color of Change talked about. In America, when America gets a cold, Black people get the flu. And this is no different. Please keep in mind that this is a health crisis that has had unimaginable economic effects that the current administration just was not in any way, shape, or form prepared to deal with. We are blessed here in Colorado to have had leadership locally with Mayor Hancock and other local officials, and on a state level with Governor Polis, that saw the potential for disaster and acted accordingly. Economically, our small Black businesses who make up the majority of members in the Colorado Black Chamber have been disproportionately hit, not just by the virus, but by the systematic racism that has affected them from the day they decided to open their own business. Right now, there's a lot of talk about all of the stimulus package and not making light of the amount of money that has been allocated. But know this, the majority of that money has not gone to small Black, brown, Asian businesses across the board. Our share has not been in any way equal to our share, our portion of the population. And the results of that is that our businesses have been disproportionately affected by this pandemic. The last figures that I saw, and this was yesterday, from the health department here, 8% of the people that have died from the virus have been African American. Now, what does that mean moving forward? A community that was already behind in economic progress is gonna now have to jump higher, run faster, be stronger than we've ever had to be before.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Reverend Quincy Shannon. I work as a dean of students here in Denver, Colorado. And I think the education side is very difficult depending on which schools already had access to computers and online platforms, and the schools that did not have a one-to-one computer ratio. And we saw that there were different distribution centers around Denver that were handing out Chromebooks, but that meant you had to figure out a way not only to get to the school to be able to get the computer that you may not have already had, but then there's certain families who have not had access to internet and online, so then they had to get hotspots to be able to allow themselves to get online. What happens if you have multiple students in the same family who are all using computers and your hotspot only allows for 25 gigabytes or 55 or 40, you know? So I think both the accessibility from a standpoint of, did your school already have computers? Did you already have the ability to log on to the internet? Are you already computer literate to understand if I tell you to go to a Google Classroom and to turn in your assignment on Google Classrooms, is that something that your school had already had a platform for doing? Or if not, if that's fully new to you and now you're being asked to do that, what does that look like? I think one of the bigger struggles that we have also is, what does attendance now look like? If I have a family member who does not have, you know, if I have a student who doesn't have a family member who's at home with them, or has a family member who is essential and they have to work, and now they're trying to figure out how to be both a teacher, in which they've never been before, and a parent and a worker, what does that look like for the student who has to go to work with mommy and daddy, and now they're going into a potentially dangerous situation because the workplace may have, you know, accessibility to COVID-19 or coronavirus, so now they're being put at risk. The student may not even understand what's going on, so now there's mental health aspects in which they may have been in the school talking to the school psychologist because that was one of the safest individuals that they had to talk to, and now they don't have that same accessibility. Or what if happens when you had a student who they were coming to school to get fed, and we understand what that free lunch system is really like throughout Denver public schools and in the world. And what happens now when you're saying you can come up to the school to pick up this bag of school outside, but now you're figuring out, how do I balance being on an online class? I may have 30 minutes for lunch. Mommy and daddy aren't home, so now I'm taking the bus or taking my bike to go pick up food. But now everybody's told me going outside is dangerous. So now I have an internal battle between the fear of going and getting the food that I may want and the fear of what everybody's saying, that if you go outside, you're going to get sick. And then on the last end of that is the ignorance around what we originally were told around African Americans, that, you know, you won't get sick because you're Black. It's not affected. It's only affecting older white men. You're going to be fine. You know, so as a child, you're not going to get sick. So you're fine. And now you're starting to see individuals in your community passing away. You're starting to see other people that you had close relationships and bonds to passing away. And you don't really have ways to process that information, but still being asked to turn in information, still being asked to turn in work, and not being clear when you're going to go back to school, when you're going to have a chance to talk to your friends. And it's a very challenging situation because I deal with discipline daily. So I have to call home and talk to parents who are already stressed out because of what the real realities of what they're dealing with is. And I have to talk about, okay, we're seeing students who have not had the ability to socialize with their friends. So now they're jumping into chat rooms after classes are over, talking about things that otherwise would be private. But because I have access to all computers, I can see what they're talking about. And as soon as they talk about certain subject matters, now they're getting themselves in potential trouble that I have to now address with parents. So I think within the vein of education, it's a pressure cooker that hits from a lot of different areas with accessibility, fear, mental health. And we have not fully got on top of it from any side of it. Thankfully, my school, we already had a 1-to-1 computer ratio, but even with us, we're seeing some issues with our students being able to log on, and how do we track the work that they're doing.
The faith community is seeing something we've never witnessed in my little 65 years of living, that this is the 6th week without no church. For the majority of the pastors that are following the distancing orders, we have not had church for 6 weeks. We've seen a death rate in the church like we've never seen before. Just from the one denomination that I came up in, and it's from the Churches of God in Christ, I've had 14 people die in the last couple of weeks. With one particular church, have 19 people that has coronavirus. As we go across, and I know that a lot of people know, we've been constantly praying for Big T. Hughes, that has been now hospitalized since March the 9th, with his wife also sick. Pastor Thomas Mays has been diagnosed, and that list goes on and on. We're seeing the church hit with this thing like never before. So we have some tithe payers. We have some people that will send an offering or go, to a PayPal or a Cash App for an offering. But anytime you're not fellowshipping, people, 9 times out of 10, a lot sit down on their finances. Well, it still takes finances to operate, but then it's very hard for even our parishioners to be able to pay tithe and offering without a job. And then a lot of them are finding themselves trying to get online for unemployment, cannot get online. It's so clogged that they cannot even get online. So these are some of the things that we're experiencing in the church. No fellowship. The bodies that are being held from church members that are, as much as I'm hearing, Pipkin, maybe 80 bodies. Taylor's March, they're holding several bodies because we're not even able to eulogize the members that are passing from coronavirus. We're not able to pray with them the way we want to when they're in the hospital. We can't pray with them, visit them because of this coronavirus. So the church is taking a big hit all the way around. Stimulus checks, the majority of the pastors I've talked to have not got any, and we are affiliated. We associate with 72 different churches and ministries in this city. The majority of the pastors I've talked to have not seen a stimulus check. Therefore, it's not matriculating down, of course, to our community. And so the church, we are in danger of a whole lot of churches closing the doors. We are in danger of losing the smaller ministries, and this is the way it's really being affected here with coronavirus. And then we have concerns, of course, for the pastors that's not following rules and regulations, and for the pastors that are not, that are still having church. Well, of course, we're nobody's daddy, so we can't tell you not to have church. But it's very concerning when people are getting sick, and they are dying. We have issues that's going on with the church. And so all I can say is we've never, ever seen anything like this in the church world before.
What can we do, and what are the challenges in making sure that we educate the African-American community appropriately on all of these issues?
We are navigating a territory that we have not seen before. And it's not only affecting us, it's affecting the entire planet, right? And so everyone's going through this right now, and a lot of folks don't know how to navigate this new world. How do you apply for unemployment? What about your housing? How do you know if your healthcare symptom or your health symptom is bad enough to send you to the doctor, right? You don't know. What I want to say is that in this really tough time, some beautiful things have come up. One, community is taking care of community. So the thing that I love is that you can reach out to any of us on this call and just say, I need to talk, I need support. And I want to remind folks as the chair of the Black Caucus that you can reach out to all of your Black Caucus members. If you have any issue, we will try to help you navigate. We are working as Black elected officials at every level of government, trying to help our community navigate this really tough territory right now. We have actually live Facebook town halls every Friday as Northeast Denver legislators to answer your questions. But if there's something you can't navigate, don't think you're the only one who can't. Reach out to us, email us, call us, Facebook us, and say, help me with my unemployment. Help me understand if I can get to the doctor now and where to go. How do I find a primary healthcare physician to write me my prescription to get tested? What does that even look like? We can help. So please reach out to your elected officials. We will help you navigate this territory, and just know that so many Coloradans are stepping up for each other. We may not be able to go to church, but we know we have God with us, and we can reach out to each other in faith.
As a journalist, I'm very concerned about the assault on the First Amendment and the number of mistruths that are emanating from the White House. And so part of this question is, how can we get the information to our people?
I think it's really important for us to use networks of catalyzing community in ways that we know are instinctive to us. They can begin with the church. They can begin with Angelle's neighborhood group. There are networks, almost like the old school sort of phone tags that we have. If you can't walk door to door, then we need to use those core community networks that might feel old school to us. And also by doing this and using social media in an effective way as a trusted source, you're contributing to that. I think it's inherent that sense of empathy that we were talking about that can exist in church, no matter what one's faith may be, is extended to each and every one of us. I'm going to go back also to women. And I heard someone from the National Institute of Health back in the early 90s say that there is a specter stalking the continent of Africa, and that specter's name is AIDS. And the only way to defeat this specter is, in fact, through the education of women. And if we can recognize the role that women play within our communities. But when we think about so often the women who are left crying on the streets, it's time now, I believe, to have a targeted strategy of lifting up the women within our community who will be the voice and who will be left mourning if we don't. It is imperative that we put our judgment aside. Maya Angelou once said that love breaks through all barriers. I also think we have to build allies. I think now that this issue has opened up, not only do we need to educate ourselves, we need to educate other people. How do we break through the ignorance that has helped to stem the systems that are not, that have not supported us for generations? Lastly, we have to educate. And our young people, Quincy, I am counting on you to get young people to vote.
What are our strategic goals so that as we begin to lift the veil of this thing and then we start to open up slowly?
Now we need to face the reality of this virus. This virus is for real. And we're not done with this virus. This virus will be here into probably 2022. We will not have a vaccine until 2021. We're opening up states in this country, and the numbers are still going up. Look at the state of Georgia, and look what they're trying to experiment with. It's like opening up, and people saying, I'm not going back to work. Because see, the thing about is if we're not able to test this community, this country, not only test them, but trace the ones that are positive and do social isolation. So we can do that with the cell phone, but the key to it is that everybody's not going to play by the same rules. Key to it is advocacy and education, and we as African Americans need to assume that we all have it and everybody else have it. So guess what? Be your own best patient advocate. Be more aware and heightened to the fact of what we can do by following all of the guidelines and following them accordingly to the CDC. And hopefully we can come up with more preventative measures and use this as an opportunity to correct some of the disproportion we have in healthcare and in this country today.
We have to become accustomed to what is, unfortunately, a new normal. How do we do that?
When we think about the new normal, I think it's important for us to remember that we are a resilient people and that trouble has not been something that we have not grown accustomed to, unfortunately, growing up in a society of white supremacy, growing up in a society that often stereotypes us, growing up in a society with limited resources, regardless of your privilege. So I think we have to remember the new normal doesn't take us away from remembering who we are, and that if we can remember the community of who we are, then what my brother going through, what my sister is going through is also what I'm going through, and we work together. There's a few things that I saw more recently when they talked about the communities opening up because the economy will suffer too much. And on social media, there was someone who was quoted by saying, "My ancestors already died for this nation's economy, so I don't have to." And I think we have to remember what those who came before us have done and not allow ourselves to get caught in that. So when we think about the new normal, one of the things that I'm excited about within all of this is the fact that we are finding ways to connect with each other in very new and even at times uncomfortable ways. So I have Zoom, Google Hangout, I have something called House Party, I have FaceTime. There's something called Marco Polo. There are a whole bunch of different apps that we have that can connect us. And I think it is important for our community who may be at home by themselves to find ways to connect with others. The unfortunate thing was recently on Facebook, there was the Loom cycle where everybody was putting $100 up, hoping that they would get $800. And it was a scam that a lot of people were getting scammed from. But the idea of cooperative economics and us coming together is not a scam. And I think we have to remember that if I could put $100 and you could put $100 and 10 of us on this call put $100 together for whatever cause that we see that's important, or buying masks in our community, or providing access or food for individuals who don't have it, then we can move our community forward. Waiting for Superman is not going to happen. Waiting for a savior to come in and help our community is not going to happen. It's on us. And we've been here before. We know what it's like to have a community that has been disproportionately taken advantage of in many different ways. And if there was nothing else that I got from the Black Panther Party, I learned the fact that you can help your own by providing for your own. So that free lunch and the free breakfast that they started doing, the ways that they were making sure that the women and the men in their community were protected is very much so important. And I think the new normal for us is finding ways to connect with people that may not be in the physical, but valuing those connections the same. And then realizing that I sit in privilege by the fact that I have internet, I have heat, I have water, I have a house that I can stay in, and I know that I'm going to get paid next week. So since I have that privilege, it's my responsibility to put up for others who may not have that same privilege. And I would like to propose that we as a group of African Americans come together and say, okay, who is the person on this call who's good with finances? All right, all of us, let's invest in wherever that person is. I can put up $100. The person next to me may be able to put up $150. Another person may be able to put up just $10. But whatever we're able to put in a collective pot for our community. And then we have people here who are with the Black Chamber of Commerce. So we have people here who are in the medical field. We have people here who are in the churches, and they know where those dollars and cents could really be allocated to help our community. So my thing of the new normal is that it's up to us, and that we have an opportunity to take this and move forward to help our community and not wait for somebody else to save us. We can save ourselves.
This segment is brought to you by the following. Need to ship something or just fax something? Mailbox Express can handle all your office needs. Want to leave a legacy for your family? Ask Myra Donovan to help you create wealth and protect it. They respect your time.
Hello, this is Mike Sawaya. I'm sitting here all by myself, and I want to talk to you about this COVID virus. There are things that you can do. Take vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin A. Take zinc. Zinc glycinate is the best. Make sure you dissolve it in your mouth. It helps to reduce viruses and make them less effective. This is known. I want you to be sure you take hot water in the morning. Drink a glass of hot water first in the morning and rinse your mouth out during the day. If you've got any in your mouth and you swallowed it, your stomach will kill it. We need to be careful of crowds because crowds have viral load. The more people you're exposed to, the more likely you are to get it or to make it worse. You want to make sure you wash your hands frequently during the day, especially if you touched anything that other people have touched. Never put your hands to your face until you've washed your hands thoroughly, unless you're all by yourself in your house. Of course, if you wash your hands all day long, you'll wear them out. But you need to also be sure you have hand sanitizer if you can get it when you go out, because you need to keep your hands clean. You also need to wear a mask if you can, rubber gloves, latex gloves if you can get them. You need to be sure you stay in shape. Exercise is going to make it harder for you, for the disease to pull you down. If you haven't been an exerciser, start right now. Make sure that you keep yourself in as good a shape as you possibly can. Stay well. When this is over, we're all going to have a big party. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Before Lodo was Lodo, the iconic El Chapultepec gave Denverites a place to get lost in this music.
It was jazz that was just take the paint off the wall. And Freddie Rodriguez was the band leader.
Freddie Rodriguez's saxophone filled this club for decades. 2 weeks ago, the 89-year-old played there for the very last time.
I'm going to miss just playing with him. I'm going to miss talking to him, arguing with him.
His son and bandmate of 40 years, Freddie Jr., took him to the hospital 11 days ago. That was the last time he'd ever see his father in person.
The man couldn't breathe, the oxygen level was so low.
In his father's final days, COVID-19 taking its toll, Freddie Jr. decided not to risk spreading the virus to other relatives.
I'll regret that for a long time that I couldn't see him.
He did manage to play him a song on the piano over video chat, a reminder to a legend that his teachings are serving a generation.
When I was in high school, back in about 1982, me and my jazz friends would sneak out late at night and go down to the El Chapultepec.
The sneaking out paid off for Andrew Hudson. Freddie Sr. would occasionally let the then teenager into the pack to sit in and play with him. It led to Hudson becoming a part of the band for the last 20 years, including at that last show when Freddie was playing with a new pacemaker and all.
He was playing his butt off. He was soloing great. He had a lot of energy.
That's part of what makes this so hard, the speed at which the virus takes. But it won't take away legacy, which will live on when this storm passes.
And we're going to continue that love and just the love of music, live music, and just keeping the show going.
In Denver, Ryan Harrer, 9 News.
Quite a legacy. Freddie Sr.'s friends and family say they will hold a public service for him once they're able to gather together and enjoy a musical celebration of his life.
We're talking about racially motivated crimes inspired by fear over the coronavirus.
A woman who's Asian says she was punched by another woman in Midtown Manhattan.
Immigrants in general were reticent to go to public health services.
Black people have been less likely to be offered a coronavirus test, even if they're exhibiting the same symptoms as white patients.
These are strange times, but remember, guys, kindness wins the day and courage wins the day. Like Rakim always says, it ain't where you're from, it's where you're at. And here, we are all Americans.
We all want to get back to work or school or to our friends or get our sports back.
Hang out at our parks, our beaches, eat out, shop, and get back to normal.
So many people are struggling in ways big and small.
We all want to be able to see our friends, live our lives, enjoy our liberties, and pursue happiness.
Whether it's our jobs, our families, our communities, or not knowing what the future holds.
COVID-19 is hurting all of us right now in different ways.
There is no choice. We have to rise up.
Yes, it's about flattening the curve and also washing your hands.
But it's also standing united, having each other's backs.
If you can give or assist in any way, please do.
If you see something wrong, speak up or lend a hand.
This is a good time to be the best human you can be.
Because no race is the reason for a virus.
And the virus knows no race.
A person of Asian ancestry is not the cause of COVID-19.
We don't have the virus more than anyone else.
And all Americans are susceptible.
Every one of us, no matter who we are.
And we know it's disproportionately affecting African Americans, as well as all of our underserved communities.
So lose the bigotry, ignorance,
finger pointing, and assaults.
We're all in this together.
And we will rise out of this together.
Because we are all Americans.
We're all Americans.
We are all Americans.
We are all Americans.
We are all Americans. We are all Americans.
We are all
Americans.
So let's act like it. Let's be good friends, let's be good neighbors, and let's get through this safely. Much love.
Well, what do you think? There's a lot going on, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. We hope you enjoyed the first Urban Spectrum Now webcast and invite you to view us each and every month.
So, however you're reviewing this webcast, please share, like, subscribe, or tweet.
Lastly, we want to thank all of our supporters and contributors who are listed in the credits who help make this webcast possible.
Thanks for watching.
love you. We'll get together, yeah, together real soon.